Hey guys, Saint here, and I'm gonna be doing the patch 1.5 or 5.15 rundown. It's kind of a small patch, but there's a lot of big champion changes, so we'll hop right into it. Gangplank, they did rework him last patch, but they took him out of the game, so people didn't really get a chance to play him that much. But I think now that he's back in the game, at least from my initial impressions of Gangplank and just how I felt seeing him in games and just playing with him. I think he's a champion with a really high skill cap, but I think that if you do master him, I think he's going to be one of the top tier champions, and he's going to be an incredibly good top laner. And I think he's probably only going to be good in top lane, but I think he's actually a really, really good champion. And I think as people learn to play him, he's going to actually be seeing a lot of competitive play as well as being played in high elo. So really a big fan of the Gangplank, and these changes don't really do anything outside of like Twisted Tree Line and all that kind of stuff, but he's pretty much the same champion as he was when he was reworked. Fiora, I usually don't go over new champions, but since it's a smaller patch, I thought I'd go over this, and she actually has like a lot of different interesting abilities that they put in. I'm not going to play them because the sound just always ends up going really loud, but basically they made her to where I guess she feels like she's going to be a stronger laner now, and the main reason why I say she's going to be a much stronger laner is because now Lunge, if you look at it here, oh, it like won't even load. But anyways, Lunge is now, see, it's targeted, sort of like how Echoes is. So now you can use the Lunge to get over walls and to escape ganks and things like that. So this is going to make her a much safer top laner, and maybe even some people would be playing her mid lane. Maybe even people would be playing her jungle. Like her gank capabilities and her escape capabilities are going to be increased enormously because of this. Also, her passive, Duelist Dance, it pretty much works kind of like, it looked to me, at least I haven't played on it yet, it looked to me like how Quinn's passive works, where they mark the target randomly and then you just do extra damage when you hit them. Then her W, Riposte, now she can block crowd control abilities if you're really good and really fast with it. So I think this gives Fiora a really high skill cap, and I think that the good Fiora players are going to be able to outplay a lot of stuff. And also, if you block a crowd control effect, now Riposte will also stun the target that try to hit you. So I think a lot of the old AP matchups that were really hard for Fiora will be a lot easier for her now because of this specific Riposte change. Her blade work now is a slow, so now she actually has some way of setting up ganks for the jungler comes, and also like following people down the lane. So this is really good as well. The first hit can't crit, but it will slow, and then the second hit will always slow. So I think overall, like, this is a really strong ability now. Blade work, it gives her enormous 1v1 potential if she's ahead, like really high kill pressure. And then her ultimate now this is the only thing that seems kind of weird to me, and the fact that basically you see all their weaknesses, see how they have all the weakness stacks on them, and each time you auto them, you proc some of these weakness stacks and you do a lot of damage to them, and then afterwards it heals. Like, see how much the Jarvan's getting healed for? So it's going to heal for a ton. So I think if you can get this ability off in a team fight and kills a target and get this like massive heal off, I think it's going to be really, really strong. So learning how to use that ability well is gonna be really good. So I like all these changes because it makes Fiora a much higher skill cap champion, and I think there's going to be a lot of really great stuff you're going to do with her. I think she's going to be a top tier champion depending on her numbers and some of the matchups. So I'm looking forward to the Fiora release. I hope she can jungle well. She looks pretty good. So Echo, there's a lot of people playing Tank Echo, and just abusing the fact that his pass is ridiculous. So what they want to do is they want to get away from Tank Echo, and they do this by nerfing a lot of Echo's base values on like his passive, his W, and his ultimate, and then they just change that base value to where it has a better AP ratio. So you have to actually get AP in order to make Echo's abilities useful. And people could see this as like a overall nerf, but in a lot of cases, if you're playing a traditional AP Echo, it's actually a buff, because like take for instance, like look at W, right? W is a skill that usually skill last, as 150 base before, right? And now has an 80 base, but has almost double the AP ratio. So this 1-point wonder is going to be a lot stronger at like around level 10 than it would be before if you were playing AP Echo. And same thing with Chrono Break. Chrono Break, once you start to get some AP, will actually end up taking off and coming out ahead of if you just had the base value on it. So in the earlier levels, some of his abilities might be weaker, but I think in the mid and late game, his abilities will be much stronger than they were before if you build full AP. So maybe you'll see some Runeglaive Echoes going into the jungle. I could definitely see that, and some full AP builds. And I definitely think top lane Echo will be stronger because of this. So I think Echo is going to be in a good spot after this. And I thought Tank Echo was kind of stupid anyways. Nidalee, they nerfed her, God bless. She was a stupid champion. Now there's a longer cast time on the Q, so it's a lot easier to dodge it because you can see her winding it up. And on top of that, the Q also does a good deal less damage. It does 60 less damage at max rank on max damage, and 20 less damage on the base of the spear. And on top of that, Bushwhack, the vision radius on cast also is much, much lower. So you're going to be able to actually get away from Nidalee instead of, like, before if she hits a spear on you, you're pretty much dead. So this will actually give you a little bit of counterplay to her, and I don't think she'll be as strong. So I'm glad they nerfed Nidalee. Good riddance. I think people will still play her, depending on how bad this cast time thing is, but I think she's definitely going to be a lot more manageable, and she'll probably be seeing a lot less play. Sivir, they nerfed her ultimate, so now it's scaling 40, 50, and 60% on the ultimate, so now you just, like, before, like, you just have Sivir as ADC, and you give everybody 60% movement speed. That's absolutely ridiculous. And then on top of that, when your allies came in, they just instantly got this, like, massive movement speed buff. And it came in, so like before, oh no, it says, allies that enter on the hunt radius after the cast are given the same bonus movement speed value and duration Sivir currently has. Previously, allies were given 2, 3, 4 seconds of the initial movement speed no matter when they joined the hunt. So they would instantly get the 60% movement speed rather than like the decayed 30% or something that'd be on Sivir. So it is going to make Sivir's engage ability a lot weaker, but I still think she's going to be an incredibly powerful champion just because late game she still has almost the same type of engage. So Sivir's still going to be really strong, but not going to be as brutal as she was before. And then this is like weird changes. They changed Teemo up a whole lot. They like his camouflage now scales up to 80% attack speed, which is absolutely ridiculous. And his stealth timer is 1.5 instead of 2, so he stealths faster, and he stealths twice as fast in a bush. So that means you 0.75 seconds to stealth in a bush. So this means he's going to be a top lane terror. And on top of that, he can also move around with stealth while in the bushes. So you can do a lot of like really interesting stuff and a lot of brush battles around like Dragon and Baron and top lane. So I think there's going to be some really cool stuff you can do with this. This will make him really powerful in the top lane. Noxious Trap also only lasts 5 minutes now, and the slow decays over 4 seconds, so you're not going to be slowed as brutally. But now it has a ramping cast range that goes up to 900 at max rank, and on top of that, it arms slower. So basically, you can like throw shrooms at people, and you can even bounce the shrooms off of each other. So, like, let's say you put one shroom down, and you throw a shroom, it'll bounce over it, and then it'll like. You can like have basically you can throw a shroom like a 12, 1300 depending on how far, like how many shrooms you have behind it. So I think this will allow Teemo to be an absolute menace in Dragon and Baron fights, and it'll actually give him some late game team fighting prowess as opposed to what he had before, where he could just only put down shrooms and make people run into him. Because now you can like throw shrooms into chokes that people are running into, are trying to come into you at, and you can block that choke off with your mushroom, and you can even like bounce shrooms off and hit people too. So I think Teemo will actually, I think he's actually going to be viable. I think he'll be decently strong, definitely strong in solo queue. Maybe not so much in competitive because he has some pretty weak 2v1 and some weird lane matchups, but I think in solo queue, Teemo will be super strong. Zeke's Harbinger now takes longer to ramp up the passive, but it has the buff duration increased by 2 seconds, and I think Zeke's Harbinger is actually a really strong item, and I think people don't really understand the full potential of it, especially on certain champions. Like, take for instance, I like to play Nunu a lot, and I think Zeke's Harbinger is super good on Nunu because you can, instead of getting Frozen Heart for your first like true big item, you can get Zeke's Harbinger, and then you can just run around the map, and like let's say I want to gank top, I can put the Zeke's Harbinger buff on the guy when I gank the lane, and then if the gank turns into a 2v2, my guy and myself will have Zeke's Harbinger, and then I'm sitting there, I'm Nunu, and I'm critting for like 300 per an auto or some shit like that. And you can also just change it anytime you want to like the ADC or anything. So I think like Zeke's Harbinger actually has some like jungle purposes too, and I really like the item overall. So I'm a big fan of it, and I actually think this is going to be a buff to the item overall. And it's also going to make it to where you can burn down objectives like Baron and Dragon, because you'll have 8 seconds of crit timer as opposed to 6, so you can burn objectives really fast with this ability. They also updated the HUD. It's going to take a while to get used to, and I hope they tweak it a little bit. But I think overall the HUD changes are actually pretty nice in a lot of cases. I'm not really going to go in too much on the HUD because it's just a HUD. So, instant feedback system, champion master emote, ward skin selection. It's pretty much it for the patch, though. It was pretty short, but I hope you guys enjoyed it, and I'll see you guys next time.